Alright, welcome everyone. We'll get started then. So we're the team from Worcester Polytechnic Institute, and for the last couple months we've been working with our sponsors, It's the People's Data, Tom Johnson and Marilyn Ward back there, on creating an open data repository for the city of Santa Fe. So part of that has been analyzing where Santa Fe is at with storing data digitally and getting it all in one place to create this kind of proof of concept for where the city can go and take things in the future. So without further ado.
So I will talk about who we are now. So I'm Arthur Lockman. I'm a robotics and computer science double major at WPI, and I'm also a software engineering intern at Red Hat.
I'm Nicholas McNary. I'm a biomedical engineering major and a computer and electrical engineering minor at WPI.
I'm Nicholas Shannon. I'm a management information systems major and as well as an application consultant intern at Kronos.
I'm Gavin Hayes. I study computer science at Worcester Polytechnic.
So just a little bit about our sponsor, It's the People's Data. They are a grassroots movement located in Santa Fe, founded by Tom Johnson. And their main goal is to have citizens and government work together so that data can be publicly available across Santa Fe. And their initiative plan, the ITPD initiative, is intended to enlist citizens in an effort to identify and retrieve local government information that taxes have paid for. By learning new skills to make sense of the changing environment, information can be communicated to a variety of audiences in the community.
So we'll talk about what the project idea was. So the whole goal here was to create a proof of concept, data repository, and a set of dashboards to show people really what open data could do for the city if the government adopts some kind of policy. So as a matter of fact, one of the largest beneficiaries of open data is government employees. You can improve internal processes and make it easier for people in the government to access data from other departments that they might need. So other cities around the world have open data repositories. The example here is the Los Angeles GeoHub. They use, I believe, a system that's based on Esri products. And you can go into the GeoHub and as a citizen get information about public works, recreation, planning, crime, schools, etc. And as a government employee, you can actually go in and get even more data. There's a whole section for just that the normal people don't have access to.
So going into this project, we had the following project objectives. First, gaining access to key data sets that fits the interest of our stakeholders. Then, creating a repository of information from those data sources collected in phase one. Then, creating a prototype dashboard in order to display that data so that you can then see patterns by correlating different data. And for the last, develop recommendations for how to proceed with open data for both the city of Santa Fe and It's the People's Data. So the first part is our data acquisition stage. So we collected data from the following data source: health, education, campaign finance, crime, street conditions, and tourism. These data sources were picked due to their utility under open data. The main beneficiary of open data is the government. Technology can be leveraged in order to improve internal process and become more transparent to the public at the same time. So we attempted to collect data from all these several sources, both national, city, state, and third-party organizations. So now that data acquisition is over, we produce the following outcomes.
So the first of the outcomes that we'll talk about is the prototype portal that we put together. So the data that we got came in a whole bunch of different formats. We had, PDFs, images, Excel sheets, CSV files. So we needed to be able to pick a piece of software that could bring all of that data together and make it so that you don't need any software to look at it. You could just go online and see it without downloading anything. So these are the ones we looked at. We looked at CCAN, DCAN, Junar, and Socrata. So we'll first look at CCAN. So the price of CCAN, it's free. It's free software. You only have to pay for hosting, which is pretty good. And we were able to host it on the city's AWS account on the free tier, so it didn't cost anything to run. And then we talk about whether it has API support, which is Application Programming Interface. That's pretty important because without that, you can't use any of the data to be able to make an application. Like if you wanted to make a phone app that pulled in some kind of the data, then you need the API as well as the API to get at the data. So some of these platforms, like Socrata, doesn't have a publicly accessible data API just to get information out of it. A lot of the APIs will give you information about the data, but not give you the data itself. So we had to make sure that it could do that and allow people to log in and suggest updates, which CCAN does do. So if you notice that some of the information about your street is wrong, you could go and update it yourself. And it provides rich data previews and maps like spreadsheets, graphs, and maps. So you can see some of these other ones have these features, but the prices vary. So DCAN specifically is feature identical to CCAN, except we ran into a lot of problems getting it set up. It's actually based on the same code as CCAN since it's open source. It's a fork of that. But it had a lot of issues getting it set up, and we couldn't get it to do some of the things that it claimed it could do. So the other ones, Junar and Socrata, are pretty expensive. So we didn't investigate them because we couldn't get a free trial or anything like that. So those are some other options for the future, but we used CCAN. So the portal that we created, CCAN supports mobile, desktop, and tablets, which is great. If you want to go on anything, you can get the data out, and all the previews work. Everything works on all of those platforms, which is pretty good. So the first thing that it has is search, which is pretty important. You can search for whatever you're looking for. So each of the data sets can be grouped into groups and organizations that own the data, as well as they can all be tagged. There's a whole bunch of different search keywords you can add to it. So when you search for like election, you get these things. You can click on one and look at it and then preview the data. This is another one that is graphable. It shows you here in the graph section, you can see you have the columns and the series that you can put on there. Any of the columns in the data set you can just pick and show there. It makes little graphs. It's not as powerful as the dashboard, which we'll get into, but and also lets you map it. If there's a latitude, longitude field in the data associated with each row, it just puts it on a graph, which is great.
So as Arthur was saying, there's a little bit of visualization within CCAN, but it's not all that powerful. So we investigated certain dashboard platforms to figure out the ideal way to deliver this data such that you didn't need to wade through the bog of information that there is. So we compared 4 different platforms: Tableau, the Dash, Power BI, and Jaspersoft. All these had varying levels of detail and different sources that they could connect to. We're going to start with Tableau because that's the one we were able to work on with an academic license. So to start off, it was pretty pricey. Obviously, we didn't have to pay for that. As students, we were able to get a copy, but if the city was looking to go forward with this, we did recommend that it was worth the price. While substantial, it has all of this support, which we're going to get into. So it could connect to pretty much any database that most people would run nowadays, which not all the other ones could say. It also had the ability to connect to custom web sources. So if you wanted to write your own page to connect to whatever source that you're using, you could do that using different APIs and HTML code. So you could also go into social media support. So if you really wanted to pull from Facebook or Twitter or something, you could actually pull all that data into Tableau. Finally, one of the most important steps was that it could connect to our platform that we chose. So we were able to use it, create web data connectors, and connect to CCAN. Another thing about Tableau is there's no storage limits. You can create as many dashboards as you want, connect as many data sources as you want without worrying about going over your limits. And then finally, it had customizable data refresh. Now, if you're going to have a dashboard, it's got a refresh. Now, all of these can do that, but the great thing about Tableau is you can set up your own customized refresh timeframes, so you can tell it when you want it to do those refreshes. Now, if we compare it to the rest of these, you can see that some of these have these features, some of them don't. The most feature complete beyond Tableau was Jaspersoft, but as you can see, the price was rather substantial because they required you to buy hosting through them. Also, from a usability standpoint, it was not very user-friendly. If you don't have a technical or programming background, you were going to have a difficult time making reports and making dashboards. So we decided Tableau was the best option. Now we'll go through some of the dashboards that we created here. This first one is the Santa Fe Streets dashboard that we made. So we took in information about the streets that the Public Works Department collected, and we put up a few different visualizations to show you what Tableau can do. So up top here we have a chart that's showing the street repair costs broken down by street. Now over on the top left, you can filter depending on what price you're looking for. So if you're looking for the cheaper streets, you can filter it down to just zero cost to maybe $100,000. But as you can see, it goes up to some of them up to the $900,000s of dollars. And it's shown by color exactly how expensive it is. Green being lower and going up to red being a lot more expensive. On the bottom, on the bottom here, we have some of the other visualizations you can do. So the circle chart shows exactly how many of each streets are different, have different conditions. So there's very poor, poor, fair, and good. And the larger the bubble, that means the more streets have that condition. Now, this is connected with this other chart over here on the right, which shows you the streets and their conditions, as well as the surface type, whether it's asphalt or dirt. And this is all filterable, where if we click something over here on the bottom left, it will filter both these two on the bottom to show where's fair and then fair over here. So you can compare the data together. Some of the other dashboards we made, there's a school attendance one, so you can see up here the attendance in 2013 by all students across all schools, and then you can also look at attendance by certain groups that the data set had. And this is also filterable. We have certain things set up on the bottom left there as well. You can filter by percentage, you can filter by group, and then of course each school gets its own page down here so you can go in detail. Another one we had was the PARCC results dashboard. So the new state standard tests that have been adopted, you can show by school how everyone's been doing. So this is last year's data, and we were looking at what percentages reached levels 1 through 5. And you can go through by school as well as filtering by percentage up top right. Another dashboard that we created was the school grades dashboard. So these are the grades that the state was assigning to the schools themselves. And again, you can filter it out by grade, you can filter it out by school, and really dive into that data and go in deep. Another dashboard we had was the voting locations. This was taken using the most recent election locations that were put up on the website. And we just put this information in with latitude and longitude, and you can show it up on a map. Now, in comparison to the previous view on CCAN, you can see here that we put also population data behind it. So this is one of the things that Tableau has built in with the maps, is you can show certain data like population density, you can show GDP per capita, and all sorts of other information that you can show on these maps behind your data. So we've broken this one out by population. And then finally, another feature of Tableau is that you can embed web pages. So this is the county's crime reports website, and we've simply embedded this into a dashboard, which if we had other things that we wanted to embed with it, we could also show this side by side. But this is fully interactive. It is literally just the crime reports website, and you can go through and filter by dates, by crime type, all sorts of information.
So now looking at the platform and dashboard, we're going to be giving recommendations to the city to continue their transparency movement. If the city wants to continue with generating more transparency in their government, they would benefit from creating a citywide open data initiative. This would include moving documents to digital storage, having every department be involved in the city, having an advocate within the government, and funding for the software and the training. So one of the main things is the digital storage. That would make it easier for the upload and also accessibility by citizens. And then for having every department be involved, if they do adopt a initiative plan, the procedures will change, but for the better. And that would include having data sets be shared between each department, and also having someone help departments that are falling behind. That's where advocacy comes in. The Santa Fe Information Technology and Telecommunications Department is a huge advocate in our minds, and even helped us set up CCAN on the Amazon servers. And with the Open Data Initiative, it would require funding for the software and training of government employees. Just need to make sure that the employees know how to use the platforms that are selected. And then, of course, we use CCAN and Tableau as the software, and it was mainly because it was free to use, supported the API that was needed, had no setup costs, and provided the best support for the data sources. We recommend using Socrata and Tableau for long-term use.
So now we'll jump into a quick demo of some of the things that we've built. So here is the Here's the Open Data Portal, which is accessible at santafeopendata.itsthepeoplesdata.org. And you can see here, it kind of gives you an overview of what data is in here. So it tells you how many data sets, how many organizations there are, how many groups. And you can jump into the data sets and just see everything that it has. Now, this actually will pull in, we have data in here that's HTML, Excel, CSV, PDFs. It pulls all of that in. Let's see, we also have these different organizations. So each of these organizations owns the data sets that are in here. So you can't just upload a data set with no owner. And ideally, when you set this up, the way you do it is you make it so that whoever's in charge in the department or the organization of uploading that data, they have access to their organization, so they go in and make changes, but they can't mess with everybody else's. So that's how you would set it up ideally. Of course, in this instance, we have access to all of these because there's not somebody in each of these organizations right now who is maintaining this. And then you can also group them. So you can just put together groups however you want. And actually, if you make an account, it lets you register. Then you can make groups for yourself. If you want to go in and group some things together, you can do that yourself. So if we look at data sets, we can search for like election, and it will give you all of the election data. You can see here, let's look at the FEC campaign finance reports. If you click over here on preview, then it will hopefully work. Yep. So it loads up a nice table of all of the information, which is very large. It has about 4,000 records, but it only loads about 100 at a time, and you can set what you want it to load, which is great, because then it doesn't, you're not downloading a 100 megabyte Excel file on your computer when you're trying to look at this. It shows it in your browser. Let's see, I don't even know if any of this is graphable. Probably not. So we also have things that aren't embeddable and previewable, like a PDF. You just click on it and it goes to the PDF. There's not really much else you can do with that, with these documents, because there's not a decent way of automating pulling data out of PDFs. We could have somebody sit and go through and type it all into an Excel sheet and post it, but it's better to not rehost data and just post exactly what you got, rather than trying to copy it, because what if somebody types something wrong when they're entering it in? Rather have the originals. So we also have here the dashboards. Nick, do you want to do these?
Yep, so I'll go through some of these dashboards we created. Show you the actual interactivity I was talking about when I was going through them. So we'll start off with the streets dashboard here that I was showing you. So up here on this top one, you can see I'm going to filter it out by cost. So let's look at just 0 to this value. And you can see it filtered it out there. So now I can also go, all right, let's look at the the top range here. If we want to look at, say, everything like above 800,000 roughly, it'll filter that out as well, as you can see what the roads. And it also breaks it down, the data set that we have, by certain roads. So you can see Paseo de Peralta, for instance, has multiple sections, and it'll break it down by the sections depending on the data set you have. And this is from the Public Works Department, so it's something that they're trying to move forward with and get this data in this format going forward. You can click on one of the data sets to view just that, highlight that, and if I wanted to, I could click keep only, and it'll show me just that, for instance. But then, of course, I can revert that as I want and reset the dashboard. Now on the bottom here, if I wanted to click on good and just view those, you can see it just highlighted that good one on the bottom left. And then, of course, it's highlighting this good column on the right here, and I can scroll through and see, all right, what streets are listed as good. There's one. So we could also click on fair. We're going to get a lot more to look at that way. So if I do that, then you can see all the ones here and all the different types of surface that they have that we can look at. So that's just some of the information there. We're going to go back, take a look at one of the other ones, show you what that is. So for instance, let's do the attendance dashboard here. So in the same way here, this one has a couple of different kinds of filters from the other one, where I have this list over here on the right. where I can scroll through all the schools and select which ones I might want to keep. So I can just take some off if I wanted to, and then go back to the graph over, or the chart over here, and they won't be there anymore. I could also select, all right, let's view all of them. Let's not view all of them. Let's view just one of them. And there we go. So now we can just view one school at once. Now down here at the bottom, here's another way of viewing it, where you can slide through and view all the schools in here. I was going a little fast there, but you know, you can go find the school that you're looking for and show it that way as well. Now these groups that are here, you can see that this is data that the schools collect, and you can filter out by, you know, certain ethnic groups, gender, all sorts of things that they are tracking and their attendance within that. So if I wanted to show the attendance for just males at this school, I could do that. And it'll give you that chart, it'll give you the value within it, and you can click on it to view a little bit more information on some of these. And all of this is fully customizable. If I wanted to, I could put as many visualizations on this dashboard as I wanted. Might be a lot, might overwhelm the user, but you know, just to give you an idea, you can do a lot with this. So we'll do one other dashboard here just to show you what it looks like. We'll do the voting locations one here. This is actually static data that is just imported in. With these locations, you know, you can zoom in on this map, take a look around, and we have certain filter setups that when you, that's me zooming the page, not the map, sorry. Zooming in on the map, goodness, sorry. Yes. You can see when we get in deeper here, it does have certain road names, but not all of the road names. So you can see, for instance, it labels Cerrillos there, Agua Fria Street, and certain other major roads, but it doesn't go down to certain of the smaller levels. And then if I wanted to, I could filter it out by the location that I'm looking for. So if I wanted to just show Atalaya Elementary School, I could do that. And it's, I gotta zoom out to find it, but it's here. Oh. There it is. Yeah. So you can filter it out by any way, and that's one of the most powerful parts of Tableau in looking at this, is you can just look at the data that you want. So that is some of the dashboards that we have. I'll let you take back
all
over
this
that.
data that Tableau is pulling is actually coming directly from the repository that we built. The way that Tableau does this is you have to make kind of an intermediary web connector for any data source that it doesn't support. So it does support a whole bunch of stuff, but if there's some data source that's non-standard, or if you have some web API that provides data a certain way that Tableau doesn't support out of the box, they make this toolkit available for you to go and make your own connectors. So we made a connector for this that basically goes and takes all of the data from CCAN that it gets from the API and converts it to what Tableau is looking for, and just hands it off to Tableau. So when you do this, you go in the web browser in the Tableau desktop application, and it says, all right, type in your URL. So you type in the URL to your connector, and your connector can have interactivity. So the way that ours works is it goes to CCAN and lists all of the data that you can pick, and you select the one you want, and you click import, and then it pulls that into Tableau. But then it works for multiple data sources, so you don't have to rewrite it for each individual one you're looking for. Come on. Maybe. Well, anyway. I guess that's not going to work. So thank you for coming. Are there any questions, comments, or anything?
Did you guys try to connect to Google Maps with Tableau's mapping visuals?
We did not know.
All right. Curious. Yeah, I think you can.
I think it can, but we were just using what was built in to try and get it to work.
Wanted to clarify your recommendation on Socrata.
Yes.
I don't think any public entity in New Mexico right now is using Socrata. And why do you need that additional step when it is kind of expensive? And
So
why you were recommending that?
we recommend Socrata, Socrata seems to be the most feature complete of the paid ones. And the real reason is that we don't want to have the city ITT department be providing support for the platform. Socrata comes with support, and any of the paid ones do. CCAN, there are companies you can buy support from for it, but they don't seem to be easy to find, and they're all based in Europe, which could be a problem. So,
Actually, and as a matter of fact, to show you a little bit of Socrata, the county's crime report site is actually built on Socrata. So this site right here, this is one of the dashboards I didn't show you guys, but this is all powered using Socrata software. So the county is using it right now for this site, and I could go to certain filters here and go through. This is actually not Tableau. This is just the Socrata site that I'm looking at right here and working in. So that's just a little bit to show you of Socrata itself.
So what's the next phase of this project? Asking you or others involved with it, now that there's a demo, that this is a really important application being developed, are there next phase initiatives for this? Is the city or others thinking seriously about it? Has that been discussed?
yeah, so we've actually talked to Renee about this, and what our plan is to hand this off to her and to Tom and Marilyn, and kind of work with the city council to come up with it's not a mandate, more of a program for the city to start following for this, because in talking to various people in the government, we realized that without a mandate, nobody's really going to do anything. So that's really the next step, is to get some kind of a program put in by the council so that it actually happens.
And then you come back in a consulting contract?
And let me expound a little bit, and the team here was helpful, and I asked them, could you find maybe some model legislation that we could give to the governing body or the mayor to customize for the city and move it? Because I believe that we're going to need the governing body and the mayor's support to move open data forward. We need their buy-in and support. It's going to require resources, and it's going to require resources from every department. We typically will have a data steward in every department who really will lead this effort within the departments to connect with the rest of the departments to build the open data repository and then make it available to the public. So we were really recommending a more of a top-down approach to this at this point. And certainly now that we know a little bit about the software they're recommending in the Amazon Web Services, we can be doing some tinkering within our own department as we have some time, so we can start building some capacity within our own IT department.
Did you find some model municipal legislation?
We did. I think it was the city of Philadelphia.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. And
Looking at other cities, mainly the city of Philadelphia, they actually implemented an open data initiative and put in a executive mandate, and back in 2012, and pretty much it listed out, okay, right when the mayor signs this piece of legislation, we are going to start our plan. And since then, they've been a leader in the open data movement, and so that's what we sent the ITT team, and hopefully can use that to build upon this.
So I have a comment and a question. So I'm with the San Antonio Community Foundation, and we've been working with a number of educational institutions and the City of San Antonio is a partner in trying to bring data around community indicators and educational outcomes using Tableau. So you might be able to look at it if you go to sanatadataHub.org.
Yeah, is that the Tableau dashboard that you have for showing the PARCC results currently?
No, that's the PED.
Okay.
PED. This is all customized Seneca data, and if you go to dashboard, you will see a lot of the early childhood educational. That's early childhood. If you go to this main dashboard page, there's all kinds of educational early childhood and trend indicators. So there's some momentum here and collaboration in place to use Tableau as a kind of a platform to share indicator level data. So that's something might be useful. Socrata, I'm not familiar with. One of the questions I have is it all open, or can you actually control access to data?
You can control
at
access.
some levels.
There
Okay,
are
so you can
access control
aggregate
levels. in Socrata. There are in CCAN as well. We just didn't implement any because we didn't have anything that was private, so to say. But yes, Socrata has various access control levels, and really Socrata, when you buy Socrata, they customize it however you want. It's all supported. All the cities that we've looked at that use it, they all look different, but the base software is the same. So they are good about customizing it how you need it. So if you need different levels of access, they will help with that. They're very good.
Right. Great. I mean, we've had conversations about server or database and warehousing, so finding solution there would be wonderful. And if city can partner with some of the city data, I think it will be really great. We've been working a lot with UNC for last year, and we've been actually trying to hire a shared data staff who can do this type of analysis and visualize it. So there may be potential to share some of the resources and find staff to do that. We've had a hard time hiring. We had funding set aside actually and couldn't find the right person. So my last question is, any of you looking for a job?
We're all juniors.
Right, so the
Not yet.
capital,
They're interns.
right, you put in training. It's a really versatile, robust tool, but it's easy to get to one level. It's really hard to get really good at it.
That's true.
So I don't imagine you training all employees and have them all get, versatile using it. You might need a couple of staff actually dedicated to do that work.
Right, and kind of the goal with recommending the training was that we'd get everybody up to a base level of how to use it. So you can, if you want to go in and make a graph, you can do that. But if you want to do super advanced things, obviously not everybody's going to be able to do that. But the levels of technical competence are so different that we really need to get everybody on the same level with the training or something like that. So.
Talk to us about internship over the summer.
I'm Susan Bowe, the Executive Director of the Foundation for Open Government. And one thing in terms of this top-down and passing legislation, don't get hung up on that. And what, as you know, because in Albuquerque, and they don't have all of those lists, but it was pretty much bottom up.
Yes.
And so don't, just maybe a hybrid of the two, I think would be.
Well, but it was top down in the sense that the mayor, when Barry gets elected 2 or 3 years ago, he goes to the IT people and said, why can't I find any data about Albuquerque?
Yeah.
And so you had sort of a pincher movement of some very good IT people and the mayor.
And legislation is wonderful, but I think if you can get different leaders to buy in and sort of be your advocates, that's good too. But passing legislation always gives me a
Well, the reason that we made the dashboards and the portal was so that we can go to different people and say, look what you can do with this, right?
Yeah.
Whereas legislation doesn't necessarily do that. You need both. Say, here's what we're going to do, and here's what you can do with it. So kind of convince everybody that it's a good idea.
Is there discussion about changing the way that information is collected specific to the elections data, because it's the PDF issue is, it's a problem. And the state has recently moved to more of an electronic data collection mentality, and the way that they both collect and then make that information available, it's not good, but it's much better, and they're definitely moving in that direction. Is Santa Fe looking at shifting some of those practices as well?
That would be at the city clerk's office. We're certainly promoting any way that we can get data in a way that makes that data accessible and available. And so, but that really would have to be an initiative starting from the city clerk. I haven't heard of a specific initiative on this, but we would definitely support it.
We talked to them briefly about that, and they didn't seem too keen on it, on changing their process, but that doesn't mean that it couldn't change in the future.
And the guys didn't get into it here, but I'm Tom Johnson with the People's Data Project. We talked to the tourism people of late in this program, and they have a goodly amount of data that's require some translation to go from ink on paper to get it into a digital format, but a lot of things on occupancy, which, and the tax revenues and so forth that are coming in, that could all be part of this over time.
They just they're entering a contract to get a whole bunch more reports that are specialized for the city and predictions as well with those reports, but they don't have that yet.
And we put out there's what, 6 teams that are here?
Yes.
This year. And one of the teams has developed this terrific app for, which could be used for snow plowing, where the driver of the snowplow just has his phone and it's tracking wherever they're going, so you can see, when are the plows coming to my street, or have they come here already, that kind of thing, which could be easily translated into things like refuge pickup and recycling pickup, so I still have time to get my bins out, that sort of thing.
And so they made a prototype for the DOT in Albuquerque. And they may use it or they may not. We don't know what they're going to do with it. They just built it as a demonstration, pretty much.
Okay,
All right,
well,
any questions?
thank you guys.
Nice job.
Really
Yeah.
appreciate all of
Wonderful
your work.
job. And that's when they're through, and either how difficult or how easy it was to do certain things, just what were your lessons learned?
I think our biggest thing learned was that some of the data that we were hoping to get coming in just wasn't going to be in a format we were going to be able to do anything with. And that was, I think, the most consistent thing across the board during our project was just finding data, but then determining that there wasn't a whole lot to be done with it right now because of the format. But
Namely, it being in PDF.
namely, yeah,
Or on
PDF
paper.
or paper.
Yeah.
Pre-PDF.
Yeah.
What was in paper form?
A lot of the records, like for instance, actually the Code of Ethics forms are right now, they were stored only in paper, so we just scanned those in to get those online. And those were things that people just fill out and submit. And then there's the city has a data storage that file cabinets upon file cabinets of paper storage stuff. So
Also the tourism.
Yeah, the tourism data as well. They get a report that is actually just a sheaf of paper.
And it is subscription.
Yeah.
It's a subscription, they have to
They
pay
can
for
only
it.
do it because they subscribe to it.
Technically that they're not supposed to release according to the contract, but they're a government entity, so you can freedom of information request it and get it. But yeah, it's a contract. They pay for that data. They don't just get it.